Feminine submission to dominant men isn't a natural instinct for women. It's social conditioning. All you girls want someone to provide for you, but you don't want to do the thing that's needed in return. Submit. Let me break something down for you. A good leader submits to his team. A good leader gets to know the strengths and weaknesses of every single person on his team so that he knows which task is appropriate for which person. If he knows he's got someone on his team who can't handle high amounts of pressure, he's not going to give the most pressing task to that person. Instead, he'll give it to the person who can handle that pressure. And then maybe in exchange for that, that person's going to get extra rest or extra holiday. When we talk about allowing the masculine to lead the feminine, it's got nothing to do with submission and dominance. The obsessive conversations made by men and women surrounding the feminine submission is irking me. We don't need to be obsessed with this topic. It's weird. And the second thing I have to say about it is that if anyone's going to submit, it's gonna be the masculine. Allowing a man to take the lead is him getting to know you like the back of his hand. He's getting to know your likes and dislikes so that he can cater his gestures towards your interests. Or if he takes you on an experience that's unfamiliar to both of you, he's doing it to get to know you better. And so that you can get to know you better. And I know what's going to be said, oh, don't listen to her, she's so toxic for saying that men should submit to women. I'm not saying that in any way, shape or form. But if anyone's going to submit, it will be the man. The only healthy relationships I see are the ones where men are worshipping their women, where men are being total simps. Not the ones who are like, okay, I gave you some money, now you've got to submit to me. That's not a fair trade-off. That's not a fair exchange. You're not accounting for all of the invisible labor that's happening in relationships. A man who loves you is just naturally generous with you. He's taking the initiative. He's taking the lead because he sees a vision with you in it and he's going to make sure that you're coming with him. And I'm saying all of this because I have seen more videos come out from female content creators that women want provider men but they don't want to be submissive, implying that we get the ick. But I always say trust the ick. That ick is protecting you. A woman who's dating a man who takes the initiative and sets a healthy pace for the relationship is the one that wins. And you know what this requires? Men having standards. Legitimate standards. Not just standards centered around is she hot enough for me to have sex with. I'm talking actual standards that ignite that flame inside of you, inside of him. He's got to look at you like you were sent to him by God himself, because otherwise men get into relationships with women they don't really like that much and it ends up building into resentment. And that's when you're more likely to hear conversations around, well, I do all of this for you, why can't you submit to me? It's a man who's genuinely, really interested in you, cares for your well-being, sees you as that extension of himself, submits to you, your needs, your desires. And that's not to say that he does that at the expense of himself, because with his standards, he will choose someone who will equally pour back into him. A woman who feels safe and taken care of is going to want to pour back into him. The reality is men need to find someone they want to worship. Until that happens, he hasn't found the one yet. So how can we as women manage this in a society that rewards people, everyone, for submitting to the masculine? Well, that's what I'm about to get into. My name is Kirsty and welcome to another episode of Good Girls in Remission, where good girls come to seek repentance for the sins they've committed as good girls. In this episode, we're going to collectively do a little bit of unlearning here. That's because good girl conditioning is all-consuming. We know too much, and what we need to do is just let a lot of that go. It teaches us so many incorrect and irrelevant practices that we try to live our lives by, and we end up suffering in the process, men and women. The very first good girl conditioning that we're going to unlearn together is that men are the prize. And bear with me on this one because I know it's been said 100 times that women are the prize and men aren't, but I want to communicate it in a way that doesn't disrespect the masculine or men, because that's not my intention here. The only men I intentionally disrespect are the incels and red pill bros in my comment section. The most common form of pushback I see regarding women being the prize is this argument that it takes away from a man's value, and it doesn't. Have you ever experienced the feeling of working so hard on something or achieving a prize or, passing a test, whatever it is, that when you finally get there, the victory tastes so sweet? That's what it feels like to win a prize. It almost feels as good to win a prize as it does to be the prize. Some comments you might see, well, women should just get off their ass and start taking the initiative, start asking men out on dates, and that doesn't work. As soon as you ask a man out on a date, you're giving your power away. And you might know stories of friends where the woman asked the guy out on a date first, and I'm telling you, look at the quality of their relationship. Is it something that you want to replicate? I'm not demonizing them, but I'm saying, is that really something that you want for yourself? Anytime I see a woman take the initiative in a relationship, he usually takes a step back and she's the one running the show. This isn't just limited to asking a man out on a date. It comes in more subtle forms of communication. Hey, I know you said you wanted to take me out for dinner this Friday night, but it's not Thursday and I don't know the time and place we're meeting. Let me know. Hey, haven't heard from you since we slept together. Just wondering what we are. Honey, no, don't. Conversations that use this kind of language and expression of energy always give your power away to him. It's not going to feel so sweet for him to chase you when you give yourself so readily to these men who don't prioritize you, don't see you as the prize, don't want to chase you and pursue you. Because now you're just coming into alignment with guys who want that soft guy life, who want the 50-50 girls, who want the girls who are going to be okay with them staying out late every single Saturday night with the boys doing sketchy shit. This is when your dark feminine energy comes into place, and it takes a level of self-assuredness. If he's not pursuing you and showing up for you in the way that you want, it's irrelevant whether he likes you enough or not, because he may actually like you, but still be exploring other options. It's got nothing to do with your value as a woman and everything to do with his readiness to commit. Oh, but if he liked me, he'd be committing to me. I need you to stop thinking these thoughts. The only type of guys that I see pursuing multiple women at the same time in a disrespectful way, aka sleeping with them, leading them on, are the ones who are suffering from depression and commitment issues. It's got nothing to do with your value and your lovability. So take that away from him. Take that away from everybody. Your ability to define your own lovability has got nothing to do with the external world. You need to take that off the table. The only thing that's not guaranteed is whether you show up acting like it or not. That's up to you. And if you have been in a situation where a guy has led you on and then dumped you, let it be a lesson to have higher standards for yourself. Take it as an opportunity to show yourself more love instead of self-judgment and self-hatred and even hatred for men, because these stories aren't helping you. The point in bringing this topic up is that if you're ever in a conversation or a situation in which you feel less than, don't be guilt-tripped out of your standards and what you want, because there's always going to be someone who can meet your expectations. And when you're the right woman for a man, you will ignite something inside of him. He will show up in ways for you that he's never shown up for anyone else before. That doesn't mean you need to contort yourself into this generalized dream woman. No, it's more about stepping into your authenticity and who you really are. The more you come into alignment with who you really are, that's when people fall in love with you, because now you're not showing up as a false self. You're not showing up as a people pleaser. You're your most authentic self, and that's what brings in the authentic connections. So don't be guilted or shamed out of settling for anyone, because you're not doing anyone a favor when you settle. It's insulting when you settle for someone. And you will, men and women, come face to face with your own karma if you use people at their own expense. Karma is my boyfriend. The second thing you need to drop is the story that all men are trash. I'm not even saying this to defend men. The reason why I say this actually has nothing to do with men and everything to do with you. It doesn't benefit you. It doesn't raise your expectations. It doesn't make you feel self-assured when you believe the narrative that all men are trash. Your expectations just plummet all the way to the ground. We as feminine women create the standard of what kind of men come into our existence. And if you walk around with this little thought form stuck in your head that all men are trash, you're going to see it, you're going to experience it, and you'll have it validated and reaffirmed every single day of your life. I'm always saying good men are a standard for me. I'm unavailable for emotionally manipulative men. I'm only available for good, generous, kind men. I block every single red pill content creator, soft guy era man. I create my own little bubble, and that's what I see and experience more of. More women need to do this, because when we have a higher standard for men, the standards have to be met or they die off. Can you imagine a guy coming up to you and being like, oh, don't expect too much from me. All men are trash, right? That's what all you girls think. Prove to me I'm wrong. Where's my hug? How do I frame this in concepts where women are being deliberately attacked for being a woman? I feel that pull to leave the story that I hold for myself and about men when I see these instances. But this is the time when I remind myself that I create my reality and that I'm not helping women either by saying all men are trash. I keep my story very high vibrational. I feel supported, I feel loved, I feel seen, I feel heard. And I felt and experienced the difference with this mentality versus when previously I would have that bitter all men suck mentality, because that's just giving them ammunition and permission to be the way that they are. Kind of like when you hold the vibration and energy of abundance, you encourage other people around you to step into that energy of abundance. And if you hold that energy of poverty, because you have that mentality, you deliberately bring other people down. Don't go for that job, you're asking for too much. Oh yeah, going on a holiday like that would be nice, but too bad it's not meant for us. We just weren't born in that life. We've seen enough rags to riches stories to know that that's not the truth. You create the standards with the kind of men you allow in your life, because this will help women collectively raise their own standards. When you demonstrate what's possible for you, other people see you as inspiration and they'll follow in your footsteps. Still do your due diligence as a woman, use your dark feminine energy to keep you safe, and you will avoid circumstances with these kinds of men who want to take advantage of you. What about in circumstances that we can't control? Look at the Sydney stabbing incident that just happened. If you don't know about it, a man with schizophrenia went around on a stabbing spree at Bondi Junction and he killed 5 women, 1 man. An interview came out with his parents that said, yes, I can believe that he targeted women because he always wanted a girlfriend, but he lacked the social skills to have one. I also think women in general are just seen as an easy target because we're physically weaker. Something I need to get across to you is that you always have access to your intuition. Instances like these make it even more important than ever before that we hold the expectations for all good men. I see a very strong collective shift away from centering men, and I think that's causing a lot of pushback and friction between the genders in which men's entitlement towards women is being challenged. And because patriarchal men aren't typically taught how to handle their emotions, they take it out on women. When you hold higher expectations for yourself, these types of men inhabit a reality that just cannot come into contact with yours. If I hold that expectations, I'm going to get the intuitive nudges to avoid a certain place at a certain time. I refuse to believe in my own powerlessness as a woman, and I refuse to believe that I should be punished for being a woman. Being a woman is a gift, and I'm so glad I was born as a woman, and I just straight up refuse to believe in my own powerlessness. That's an energy I take with me throughout the day. And the other bit of conditioning I wanted to talk about was equality. What does equality even look like? Besides from the most obvious factors, the most basic things like bodily autonomy, being paid the same for the same role. That to me isn't equality, that's just basic human rights. Men and women will literally never be the same. We will never be equal. And I think that if we as women have to try and be equal to men, we end up shrinking. We end up coming down. We can go halves in our bill, or 70-30, in which he's paying the 70 and I'm paying the 30, because maybe that's a more fair representation of our working hours. But what about the fact that women are blocked from certain opportunities just because they're a woman? What about the fact that women are treated differently in the workplace? What about the fact that most women do have to be a little bit more vigilant in walking around? What about the fact that we've got to manage a different hormonal cycle to what men do? Or that if we want to have our own children, we're going to have to be the ones that birth them? Oh yeah, but the dad's just as important. Not really. This is going to sound harsh. He's important in the protection and provision, but when it comes to the bond between the mother and the child, nothing compares to that. If she wants her baby to be breastfed, she's going to be the one to do it. Can't really achieve equality when you compare a man to a woman, because our experiences on earth are just so completely different that I just don't think enough men get it. And this whole like, oh, men deserve to be spoiled, men deserve flowers too. I agree. When you are partnered with a man who really adds value to your life, you're going to want to naturally spoil him. But men in a healthy masculine frame of mind aren't thinking, where are my flowers? The biggest gift that they can receive is a woman feeling safe in his company, emotionally, physically, and financially. He's not adding stress to your life. He's actually making you feel safer with him than without him. This is a tricky one because it's very nuanced, but I think we need to break out of the mindset of trying to treat everyone like they're the same, because we're not. But I don't mean in terms of stereotypical gender norms in which women are typically disrespected or seen as less than. I think we still have ways to go in which more education is needed on the differences between men and women and how we can treat each other with respect, instead of having to shrink everyone into these boxes of who we should be, because then that's when I think we risk looking like a modernized production line. You know how everything is starting to look the same? A trend goes viral and all of a sudden we're all jumping on it, or beige houses have become a trend. We've lost the sense of color and self-expression. It's like we're all losing our identity. We're all losing the true essence of who we really are. And if we keep pushing for this equality, I really think it reduces us to just being a robot. I don't want to be treated like a man. I can't hustle. I can't burn myself out. I can't do it. And I also know that I don't want to treat a man like a woman. The only time I'll be caught dead buying a man flowers is for his funeral. Just let women have their own thing for once. Jesus. So how do I treat men like a man? I give him masculine duties. Opening the car door for me is his thing. Protecting and providing is his thing. I'm not taking that from him, and then this way men treat me like a woman. They open the car doors. They spoil me with gifts. They take care of the bill. They see my value without me having to convince them of it. And that to me is how we achieve a healthy equilibrium without having to shrink ourselves into the expectations of gender equality. I have my role in a relationship, he has his. It doesn't look the same, but it doesn't make it any more or less valuable than what both of us bring to the table. And if you ever find yourself in the presence of a man who's asking you what you bring to the table, you say nothing, because the fact that he asked that in the first place is a sign of a dusty. Never put yourself in a situation in which you have to explain your worth, because you are simply worth more than that. If he has generalizations about women in which they bring nothing to the table, that is the sign that he brings nothing to the table, because when he brings what he brings to the table, that's when a woman can really feel safe enough to access her feminine gifts. In a couple of weeks, I'm putting together a live event for women only around feminine confidence. 3 days, 3 live Zoom calls with Q&A. Tickets are only 70 Australian dollars, which is about, I think, 40 US dollars. We're going to cover how you can confidently come into alignment with your desires and strengthen your relationship with your own worthiness so that you are a match to what you want, especially when it comes to dating and relationships. If you'd like to join us or find out more about it, the link is in the description below. That is all I have for you today. Thank you so much for joining me, and I'll see you next week. Bye.